So last week I talked about how you can use your natal chart to understand how you specifically are meant to be making money. And I will link the video below so you can watch it properly and spend time with it. But just to recap, I was covering the second house, the eighth house, and the rulers of those houses. In general terms, obviously, since I don't have, and I'm not working with any specific chart. And so the reason that I call that part one is because there is more in your chart that will tell you how you can not just understand of how you make money. It's like giving you a structure, how to make that process sustainable and lasting, basically. And like to support you through your own life journey. Because a business that's stuck in the past, version of you, will not last, or it will be detrimental to you. So the other layers that I'm going to touch today on are what you want to consider once you kind of understood the basics, which is the second, the eighth houses and their rulers. This video and what I'm sharing here will help you flesh out like the deeper layers to you, or rather of yourself, that are essential for you to understand and optimize and get yourself in the best working relationship with those parts of yourself so that you can build a business and make good money, right? Okay, so let's start. The first thing to look at is Pluto. So why Pluto and what Pluto speaks of? So Pluto is, I have plenty of content on Pluto. You can also look back on my videos. Pluto is why we are here. It's our deepest why. It's what, and it's so deep that it's unconscious. And I'll get to the next archetype I'll talk about. It's kind of where you maybe want to look at to access the depth of your motivations that maybe you're struggling otherwise. But let's stick with Pluto because it's a soul level. And unless you are really like chums, like lovers with your soul, but on a level of actual knowledge and recognition and understanding, as opposed to just a feeling that you might have, as we all, I imagine, do. So it requires greater precision, almost like in terms of your connection to your soul, i.e. your why, because it's so deep. Therefore, that access to that depth of the why might not be rationally and intellectually available to you as easily or as quickly, depending on maybe even your age, but certainly on how you work with yourself and how good you are and honest. And Pluto is merciless. The Pluto power is in uncompromising, unfiltered truth of yours. No one else, is just yours. So how comfortable are you with your truth? How familiar are you with it? Have you spent enough time with your truth? And all the ways that, when we face it are not comfortable, right? And particularly with Pluto truth, it's like far more uncomfortable than it's comfortable, right? So the reason why that's important for money-making process, let's call it journey or process, right? Is that finding your why, but it's not just the one sentence, it will be the layers of your sign and the house and the aspects, like I say. So that gets a bit 3D, right? As opposed to just like 2 bullet points. And I always work with a lot first, like I get so much info and then swim through that, like feeling my way through it, understanding and, however you make sense of data that is presented to you, right? And only when I assimilate it a lot, and then as I assimilate, how with food, like you put, and this is my Pluto in Virgo maybe speaking, right? So you, as a Pluto in Scorpio, Libra, or Leo, might have a different way of getting to your own truth. In fact, you do, I'm sure. But I also think Pluto's per generation are kind of how we are using that sign in its most empowered way. And generally, Virgo is a sign of, so Pluto in Virgo would be a good Pluto generation to talk about this. That the Virgo quality of the Virgo archetype quality of discernment, like what is, what isn't, what's useful, what's not. So once I'm swimming in all of that, I'm kind of processing, and what comes out, like waste, is like, okay, that's I took what I needed from it, and the rest I don't want. And so when you know your why, the more you tap into it and let that drive your decisions, the more sustainable what you do based on those decisions will be, because your why is the strongest motivator, and being Pluto, it's the soul level one. So it's promising longevity, because it will, and it will be changeable. I mean, no business, not wise and modern and lean business is ever stuck in one way of being and doing things, right? So the business, being the 8th house archetype anyway, and by extension and correspondence, Scorpio and Pluto being the modern ruler of Scorpio, all of these themes of evolution is required of you, so that the business can breathe and get better, and being better for you as well as being a better business, serving your customers and all that. So the change of your why will be inevitable, but as long as you keep tapping into the deepest why of yours, which is defined by your Pluto house and sign and aspects, the longer you'll be in that business. There won't be need for like, a year later, that wasn't really it. And well, it wasn't because you weren't in touch with a deeper why. So that's a tough journey, but it's a great journey. Okay, so that's one reason for Pluto, why you want to understand your Pluto, so that you can feed your business model and your money-making processes and structures with that intense desire and motivation that is soul level and therefore sustainable. And then the last thing I want to say about Pluto is that because that is how you are empowered, like your Pluto is your superpower basically. So you will bring that into your 8th house work. So remember, we talked about 2nd house is self-employment, and therefore limits, because it's just you are it's a solopreneur, basically archetype, the 2nd house in terms of money making, and it's great. It works to a point, and after that point, it becomes a limitation and becomes stifling and stagnant, right? So you can stay with that. Listen to my previous video, I had some examples of that, of how that works or how that doesn't really work. But then you move on to the 8th house in your attitude, right? And the Pluto part in your chart will tell you what are those powers that you can then bring to that space of your 8th house. They might not be very related. You might have, Gemini in the 8th house. Pluto, there is no Pluto in Gemini generation in the world. So unless your ruler of your 8th house is conjunct Pluto, there might not be a direct correlation to the 8th house transformative work that you can charge much higher ticket, higher value ticket, right, to your customers, and therefore accumulate wealth. And it's a limitless space because it's about alchemy. So if your Pluto is not directly connected to your 8th house in this story as you're mapping it out, all that means is that you just have to think outside the box, because the Pluto has come out of that neat map, right? And how that can integrate, how you can bring your Pluto power to charge your clients with, and also to empower yourself as a facilitator of the journey, how to use your own power, like how to utilize it. I think in a way, really, it's already present if you were to think about 8th house the way I talked about in a previous video, and I probably will in the next, in fact I will talk again about the 8th house over the next few weeks. So my point is, it might be a matter of just understanding this and then refining once you understood, and now you know which archetypes in you are contributing to certain parts of your business and money-making model. Then you just kind of get, when you know something really well, then you know how to manipulate it, to kind of work with it, right? Okay, so that's about Pluto. The second thing you want to look at in your chart to help you support, you can see now how this is supporting the conversation we had last week, which is Mars. So Mars is just on a kind of first level, like a superficial, let's call it level, the most obvious level, right? Is energy, like energy in the sense of most obvious energy, like this is Mars, right? Like moving, what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's how I get physical, right? In that sense, energy. And what that means, that sentence, how I get physical, it means that this is how I most easily can spend energy, because why else would I be getting physical naturally about something if it isn't that I seem to have a lot of energy around that area anyway, right? Kind of in me, i.e. Mars, right? So again, you're looking as always like the sign and the house, and then conjunctions, and then squares, and then oppositions. So Mars is where you naturally are drawn to. Wherever you have your Mars, then look at the house, and remember the free guide, which I will also link below of mine, which tells you about each house like in a paragraph. If you need help with kind of understanding what each house means. It's not money related, because I wrote that way before I was interested in money and astrology, but still, it will help you. And that would tell you which house it is, and the sign, obviously, but house even more so, like where you naturally are just like there. Like it's just, you can't help but go there. It's like where you have the most fun, you have the most energy for, you're most motivated to, and you're most courageous about that area of your life where you have Mars, right? So understanding your Mars will help you understand like how to energize yourself about your business, for your business, how to bring extra energy, physical, like vibrational energy into your dealings with your clients, how to energize them and motivate them, right? So it's whatever works for you will work for the client as well, or rather it is what you're offering, because what else are you going to offer? What else do you know, right? So always think with that. Understanding yourself better will understand what you can give your clients. And then obviously you are understanding your clients from a different maybe perspective, not just all through you. In fact, not just all through you, because they're not you, but they certainly are similar to you in ways that they need to be in order to understand you and in order to get what you can give them. So you will want to tailor whatever it is that you are as you're learning using your chart. You will want to tailor to your already existing clients, or to what you think are the ideal clients, or just clients that seem to you generally would be attracted to what you seem to be able to offer, right? So Mars will bring you an understanding and a way to add that layer to your business, to your day-to-day running of the business, so it's more energizing for you. The other thing, there are sort of two and a half more things I want to talk about that are supportive, as you can see how I'm layering it in the sense that it's supportive to your money-making model, right? So the next one is Saturn. Now, Saturn is, amongst many other things, but Saturn archetype in our chart, where it sits, again, house and the sign, and then aspects, will tell us what we're here to master. But what that means, remember, is to master something means that we are starting, if that's our mandate, you got to master this. It's assuming that the given is that we are starting from the opposite of master position. So Saturn is frustration in the sense that there is this insane desire to be a master of that domain, whatever the sign and the house is, right, of your Saturn. But because the mandate is to master, you're starting from that rookie position, which is like, for a Saturn, it's like, oh, so humiliating, so embarrassing, like that I can't handle this stuff. Like, what's wrong with me, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with you. That's how it's meant to be, right? That's why astrology is good, to kind of remind us, just one of many frameworks out there, right? Astrology just happened to have been mine, to kind of remind us of like, oh yeah, okay, so yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm meant to feel like this, but that's part of the journey. I just, let's not get frustrated. Let's work with it and all that stuff. That's a separate conversation. Maybe not for here today. But I'm just explaining where the frustration. So think about that. What is currently, or what have your whole life, essentially, not just currently, have been a sore spot, like a kind of a embarrassment, kind of like you feel so much judgment around, and you feel infantile. It might not even be directly to do with money making, obviously, or rather especially if it's not connected directly to the money axis and the rulers of those houses, right? But even maybe in general terms, when you think about your business, maybe, and then you move to Saturn to understand your Saturn, you might not even see a connection immediately, but the connection that you want to consider and think about is not sort of linguistic, let's say, or semantic, right? I think those are the words. But it's more the potential conflict of what your idea of success is, like what it is that you will feel successful about and for, like if you ended up having or doing or creating or experiencing at the end of your life, looking back, you go, I have done that, I have experienced that, I have made that, whatever, right? Verb goes with the sign, typically, of Saturn in this case, right? That may have nothing to do with your business per se, but it's essential that you meet it. And also, if you can integrate it within your business, and you I'm sure you'll find ways if you want to do that. But it might mean that it's something that it's supportive of your business in terms of your own personal commitment to that work, even if it ends up being, I mean, a silly example, like you are meant to be making money as a surgeon. I mean, it's a ridiculous example. Bear with me because it really illustrates well that difference, right? So as a surgeon, right? And then, but really your Saturn is, let's say in Taurus in the 4th house. So it's like garden and plants and growing in the soil. So you're a gardener, right? As well in your spare time. And it's like you wanna, it's not about what you're achieving, but you have experienced, you have done, you have tended to a garden, you have fascination with plants and, you know, seeds and stuff like that, right? So that may be your Saturn story that has kind of nothing to do, and it doesn't have to do with your business money-making thing, but it's essential for your well-being and for your regulated nervous system, which is, Saturn is connected to Moon because it's the opposite to Moon, being, you know, Cancer and Capricorn axis. So in that sense, you're supporting yourself and therefore your business when you're looking at and tending to your Saturn. And the final piece I want to talk about today are 10th house and MC. So they can overlap. So your MC, mediums, coeli, or your zenith, or the, you know, the highest point in your chart. So that's astronomy now. We don't want to worry about that. But you will see in your chart there is an MC. Like an axis, like a line, and there is an IC at the bottom, but you want to look at an MC. That is one point in your chart, and then there is a 10th house, which is a house in your chart. So MC and 10th house are correspondences. They stand for similar enough things to be correspondences. And you may well have MC in your 10th house, but like me, and many other people, you have MC in your 9th or your 11th or even in your 8th or 12th, which I have worked with people, if they're born at, you know, far north or far south hemisphere, right? That can happen easily. It's meant to be, astronomically speaking. Then you will want to address that in your understanding what the two mean for you and how you're meant to achieve both and make yourself happy about those two, right? So the 10th house is what the public wants from you, or rather needs from you, both really, needs and then therefore wants, public. So people you don't know necessarily, you might have come across, so you know people like, but you don't know that. That would be like if you were CEO of a company, so everyone who works for you, you don't know everyone. You might have seen them as some big Christmas do, but you know what I mean, you don't know them. Or if you're a mayor of a town, you don't know everyone, right? And that's the sort of public. Or if you're online, like me, right? I don't know every single one of you at all, but I know some, and I'm chatting with some others, right? But there is a sense of public, far vaster reach of influence, right? Is the 10th house. So that is your beacon, like that is how you stand in the world, as per world, as the world sees you in the most kind of obvious and kind of like superficial sense. So like that's the first thing that they see, or they quickly kind of can point to, because from afar that's what they see, right? Or most easily see, right? So your 10th house will be, if you want public recognition, which we all want to an extent, right? You want to layer that into your business model, and it may well be like already part of it for all the rulers that I talked about earlier, or your Pluto maybe. Which is to do with transformation and money-making piece, right? But even if it's further away from those themes, it still can make a wonderful, like adding a wonderful layer, meaningful layer, depth layer to your business model. And the MC piece is, if it is in the same house, like 10th house, if it's in the 10th house rather, then your personal sense of achievement and like what you are, or rather achievement in the sense of I've given what I want to give the world, right? As opposed to what the world wants me to give it, right? So the MC is your personal affinity for that. Like, this is what I want to give the world, right? But it might not be exactly the same as what the world wants from me. So MC is your personal sense of what that is. And so when they're in the tent and it's your personal sense and the public sense is the same, so great, that's great for you. I'm so happy for you. For us who don't have that, like me, I'll give you a quick example of my own. Publishing is huge for what I want to do. And so my moon, my moon too, but my MC is in the ninth house, which is all about publishing. So I'm doing that, and it just ties in beautifully with what I'm planning to do, what I'll be doing rather, in terms of growing as an entrepreneur and making money. It will definitely beautifully tie in because I'm making it so. I'm making it so. So you can too. I don't know what that is, but you can. It's just layering. And so you understand now the difference between tent and the MC, and all these Pluto, Mars, Saturn, and the tent and the MC are all ways in which you have and create a sense of meaning, purpose, direction, success, but all meaningful to you, specifically to you, with all the nuances of these placements in all the ways that I have said so far, right? That's how you support your money-making axis that I talked about in the last week, not maybe necessarily so directly and kind of neatly overlapping, but trust me, I'm at the point, and I will be, like I said, sharing this in some near future more, at a point in my life, and maybe it takes time. I'll report once I'm clear on this, but to actually bring it all together, however disparate it might seem at some point, at an early stage, either in your life, age-wise, or in your business entrepreneurship kind of journey. At the start of that, it might all seem a bit, how am I going to bring this together? It can be brought together, I believe, and I'm doing it myself. So anyway, okay, so hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, I can't wait to be back next week with some more on this subject, just going elsewhere, deepening some other stuff, getting more specific about some other stuff and all that. Ooh. Oh, this is my spring look, like the hottest day in the UK today, and I just felt like a bit summery. So, okay, bye.